Hey, you guys. Um, I have just like 5 or 10 minutes to jump on here this afternoon, and I wanted to just see how everybody's doing this week. I got to take my son to baseball practice. I told you guys last week I'm going to be on the baseball field a lot this summer. So if you're here, say hello. I see some people jumping in. Before we start, well, I don't really have a whole lot that I want to say to you, because I wanted to ask you guys, I know in the poll that I did a couple weeks ago, one of the things that came up was boundaries, and this is something that I definitely see a lot in the conversations that I have with you guys, both with the women, the men, neurotypicals, neurotypical folks, and also my autistic folks struggle with boundaries, uh, maintaining them, feeling like their boundaries are violated. Neurotypical folks, you feel you struggle to maintain your boundaries. So I'd love to hear what your struggles are with your boundaries. So tell me. But while I'm waiting on you guys, I also wanted to mention to you that I have a couple of private coaching spots opening up. I think the week after the 4th of July. So if any of you have been sitting there wondering what you might want to do and thinking you might want to know a little bit more about this private coaching thing, definitely shoot me a PM. It's really intensive. And if any of you are old enough to remember that Nanny 911 show where she like moves in and helps parents with their kids, it's kind of like that, but virtually, where I just kind of move on into your relationship every day. So anyway, if anybody's interested, I've got a couple of spots, and I only take like 5 clients at a time because it's pretty intensive. So I see 4 of you here. Talk to me about boundaries. Are you here to listen to me? You thought I was going to talk. Well, I will talk. What's your questions? What's your questions about boundaries? Do you guys struggle with boundaries? Who's here? You guys say hello. Somebody say hello. I can see you, but I can't see who you are. Who are you? Say hello. Who's here? You left. I'm scaring you guys. All right, if you're not going to talk to me, I'm going to talk to you. And if you don't talk to me, I'm going to get off this live because I got to take my kid to baseball. So what I see you guys struggling with boundaries, okay, I'm going to talk to my neurotypical folks first. I see you struggle with boundaries in basically you give yourselves away. You give your identity away. Who can resonate? Who can relate to that? I know I can. You give your identity away in your relationship. So you struggle with maintaining who you actually are. You forget who you are. By the time you come to me, or after you've been in a relationship for a while, and this has probably happened before you were not just in a spectrum relationship. You may have struggled with this before, and there's a reason for it. A lot of you have had different types of backgrounds where your boundaries were violated in your upbringing, and so you don't know where your space begins and everybody else's begins, and so you end up giving that personal space away, and you lose your identity. This totally happened to me too. So you don't know how to set that boundary. You don't know how to say no. No, this is my space, and this is not yours to enter. Anybody here recognize that? I'll speak to my autistic folks. You struggle also with boundaries and concerns about your boundaries being violated. You really need that space, and you sometimes you have a tendency to violate the boundaries of others because you struggle with seeing their perspective and their point of view and their opinions, and you don't even know this about yourselves sometimes. But you really are you're so protective of your own space because it feels like people are in your space all the time. You're so sensory. You're so assaulted. Your senses are so assaulted. That's like some serious alliteration all the time. that it feels like that boundary, your physical boundaries, are being constantly violated. People are in your physical space way too much, your emotional space, or uh, what we're not even sure, it feels like they're in your emotional space, wanting to suck the emotions that you do have from you, your energy. They're in your space, and so you're very defensive of that, and you put these walls up, these boundaries, and you actually have very rigid boundaries. So you retreat and avoid the people in your life, just to keep, and so your partners are constantly pushing you to come into that space, and you feel that like those boundaries are being violated, and then your partners are telling you that they're hurt by that, and they feel hurt by you, and then that makes you feel really frustrated, and this just causes a lot of issues in your relationship. And those of you who are neurotypical feel hurt when you're not let into that personal space, and you're also hurt when your autistic partner violates your boundary, your personal space, whether it's what you need, whatever it is, what you need in terms of what time you want to go to bed, what you want to watch on TV, what you want for dinner, what you want the routine to be, because your autistic partner can be fairly rigid with those rules, and what your needs just get kind of plowed over. So how do you set those boundaries? How do you both set those boundaries and not violate each other's boundaries and not be violated? How do you do that? Do you guys have does anybody relate to what I'm saying? You guys are so quiet. I see this little eyeball where I can see your hair, but nobody's talking to me. I got like 3 minutes before I gotta go. So if any of you are relating to this, I got 3 minutes for you to talk to me. Or you can send me you can talk to me in the comment thread afterwards. You guys are quiet on a Tuesday. All right. So we'll be talking about this more in the group this week, because I know, oh, hi, Kim. This has been totally on my mind lately. Yes. Thank you for speaking up. So what's been on your mind? I got like 2 minutes, but we can talk about it more in the thread. What's been on your mind? Exactly what you need. Boundaries? Hi, Angie. I think there's so much more that could be said about boundaries. It's hard to know what the ASD boundaries are at any given time. So you're talking about what your partner's boundaries are? It's hard to know what their boundaries are at any given time. Do they morph and change? Is that what you mean? Tell me what you mean by that. Kim says, I'm always wanting to get into his world. Yeah, you want to get into his world. And our autistic partners are like, nope, boop, wall. Yeah. And so why is that? There's a reason for that. They're very defensive about their personal space, their personal boundaries, and we feel really hurt when they won't let us in there. So we get our little, I don't know, what do you call it? Chisel. We get our chisel and start chiseling away because we feel personally injured and wounded when they won't let us in their space. We want in there, but they need that protective barrier because they're into assault so much that they need to have that space. So, but we have to find a balance where they're letting us in at least to the interior chamber of their spaces, their rooms, but yet they still have some insulation from the world. So we've got to figure out that balance. Kim, he gets so mad when I want more affection, and he can't give because he is stressed. Right. So that's where we have to find the balance. We have to figure out how you can get what you need, but yet he still gets the space that he needs. And so this what you're describing is this classic pursue and withdraw, pursue and withdraw, pursue and withdraw. It's so classic. Happens in all relationships, by the way, but especially in autistic relationships. So we've got to figure out, and the more the more it happens, the more it's reinforced and the worse it gets. So we got to figure that balance out. Angie says, yes. Yeah, you get completely devastated. You probably feel devalued. I almost read that wrong as devalued, but that's probably what you feel too, I think. Putting words in your mouth here, but Angie, seems like if you touch him unexpected or turn a quarter to a room they're in, they're anxious, or if you get close to their stuff. Yeah, that sudden surprise can be really, really tough for folks on the spectrum, because that's the sensory assault. It's like a it's like a hyper-reactive alarm system that they have. And so whenever you walk in on it, okay, imagine this. When you turn a corner into a room they're in unexpectedly, it's the same for them as you suddenly walking into a room and almost stepping on a spider or a snake. Okay? Their sensory system reacts the same way as yours does when you all of a sudden almost step on a spider. It's the same response for them. So that's why they're like, don't do that. And you don't mean to, but you get all personally offended. It's like, why do you react that way? I'm your wife. But it's because they just got this injection of adrenaline, just like you would if you saw a spider. They can't help it. It's how their brain works. Kim, working on separating my feelings from the situation. Right. It's hard because we feel hurt. But one of the best ways to do this is to start to understand it and to know what's happening for him. And then once you understand it, then then we start to realize, wait a minute, okay, it's not me. It's not me. It's the way his brain is responding. Angie, it's like they have a boundary that I never know I'm violating without offending. Yeah, so we have to learn the difference between offending and just reacting, like that brain's reacting versus you've actually insulted or offended him. So it's really a matter of learning all of this. And now that you know that autism may be the issue, then you can start to sort all of that out. Okay, guys, sorry, I gotta go. My son's got to go to baseball. He would probably love to be late because they didn't play well this weekend, and so they're gonna have to run laps. So he's probably out there going, keep talking, Mom, keep talking, but I better go. So anyway, if you guys have athletes, you'll understand. But I'm glad I was able to jump on here and talk to you ladies. Keep it going, keep the conversation going in the thread here. This is going to be kind of a new topic that I want to explore more in the next week or two. So anyway, if you have any thoughts about this, drop it in the thread and we'll keep it going. I hope you guys have a great evening, and I will talk to you guys soon.